Are you a K-pop or a K-drama fan? Do you someday wish to come to Korea to live here or someday work here? Stop! Before you plan to do that, you have to know about the harsh realities of working in Korea from a more realistic perspective. Hello everyone, my name is Sans. I'm from India and I've been living in Korea for the last 7 years. I came to Korea under the Global Korean Scholarship Program in 2017 for my bachelor's in computer science, and now I work here. So work, let's talk a bit about work. I'm still fairly new to the workforce with around 2 years of experience in the tech startup scene in Korea, and this is an industry I really enjoy, but work has been tough. Sometimes it feels meaningless and disconnected from my life's purpose, which led me to have several conversations about work in general and working in Korea with other professionals, Korean and international, who have way more experience than I do, like 10 or 20 years of experience. I've noticed 5 negative aspects or harsh realities of working in Korea, and I'm sure there are more than I cover in this video. Harsh reality number 1. Disclaimer, these quote-unquote harsh realities may exist literally everywhere in the world, and it may be worse in other countries, but this video is not a comparison, so please don't start a fight in the comments.
Like so many people did on Sans versus previous video.
This is just information that you can take into account if you ever plan to move to Korea and work here. In Korea, as a fresh graduate,
and in general,
it is really hard to get a job. And that's because from a Korean person's perspective, even if there are jobs available at small to medium-sized companies, people want to go for a job with a high salary, with a lot of perks and prestige.
and if you know anything about the Korean society, prestige and how you look to others is everything.
A daegyo, meaning a big company, like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, Kia, SK. All these are big and popular companies in Korea. They have amazing benefits for their employees, like free daycare for the children. Their starting base salary is double of what you would be offered at a small to medium-sized company. I've heard from acquaintances who are completely Korean, they would rather stay at home and keep preparing for a job because you have to apply for jobs in seasons. It's kind of like applying to university because the process of applying to jobs takes
Fucking long.
I interviewed Korean people regarding the job system and they allowed me to use the recording, but I altered it since they didn't want to be recognized. I apologize for the bad audio.
자기가 관심 있는 그런 대기업 회사들 줄이고 또 중소기업은 내가 여기까지는 그래도 가고 싶다라는 회사를 정해서 거의 모든 회사들에 다 넣어보는 것 같아요. 그 이후에 일단 자기소개서 넣고 붙으면 1차 면접하고 그 다음에 아까 말했던 무슨 인성검사 또 2차 면접을 해요. 근데 그 2차 면접도 그 직무에 따라서 무슨 코딩 무슨 테스트를 볼 때도 있고 마케팅 직무인 친구는 프레젠테이션 하는 면접을 본대요. 5월 디스커션 하는 면접 다른 지원자들이랑 한 2-3개월 걸린 것 같아요. From the perspective of a foreigner who studied in Korea, we are usually on a D2 visa while studying, and then if we wish to extend our stay, we have to find a job at a company which is willing to sponsor our visa. In my case, when I was in my final semester, I was so anxious about what am I going to do with my life, because getting a job in tech requires minimum 3 months of preparing for a coding test in Korean. So I did that and I failed, and I took the first job offered to me by a startup. After applying to a bunch of companies, failing, I took a job at the first startup who was willing to sponsor my visa or at least help me get an F-series visa. I don't regret my decision at all because I learned so much from them. It was more like a study group, and then I was getting paid to be a part of that study group. Startups are a really good place to start your career, but a lot of them are gonna overwork you, and that's probably a good thing in the start because the more you work, the faster you learn. The more you work, the better your growth is.
BTW if you're liking this content.
Please subscribe to this channel, please. Number 2, being judged on the school that you've graduated from. This is especially true for Korean people rather than international people. In Korea, there are 2 main ways of getting into university. Number 1 is called
수시,
Which is basically the US system of applying to colleges.
where they look at your high school scores and you have to write your SOP. You go through like a panel of interviews and then you get into the university. And the second one, which is the more popular one, the infamous K-SAT exam, which is called 수능, 수학 능력 시험.
But people treat it as an IQ test.
It is a really difficult exam. So that means if you are from a good university, it has an underlying meaning that you have studied really hard and that you are smart. In the workplace though, how this manifests is that people in general have a tendency to form clans. They feel closer to a person belonging to the same university as them. One company that I worked for, since they only wanted to hire smart people, they majorly preferred graduates or master's students from SNU or KAIST. I was having a conversation about how Korean people really look at your school with a coworker of mine, and he agreed, saying that at his previous company, since the CEO was from Yonsei, more than half of the executives that he hired were also from Yonsei. Kind of reminds me of the law firm in Suits, Pierce and Hardman, with their only Harvard graduates rule.
A snippet from the interview.
경력 몇 년까지 영향이 있는 것 같아요. 신입일 때는 당연히 다른 경력이 없으니까 그럴 수밖에 없지만 한 40살 돼서 do they still look at are you from Sky? Are you from 이화?
40살이 되더라도 만약에 같은 40살 있으면 제가 만약에 뽑는 사람의 입장일 때 어느 정도 그런 같은 학교 출신이라는 게 영향을 줄 수는 있을 것 같아요. 한국 문화 특성상. 한국 사람들은 그런 대학교를 들어갈 때 무조건 수능이나 그런 시스템을 통해서 서울대, 연대, 고대 이런 순으로 다 나눠지다 보니까 약간 외국인들은 보다는 한국인한테 그런 출신 학교가 더 중요해지는 것 같아요.
Number 3. Usually the pay in Korean companies is really, really bad. Most Korean companies don't even reveal the salary range for the jobs that they upload on a job website. Even when you apply for that company and go through the interview process, it's only at the last stage of the interview they talk about salary. As a fresh graduate, they try to pay you as low as they possibly can. But if you have some amount of experience, they ask you for documents that reveal your income information from previous companies or since the beginning of your career. And if you want a job, you have to give it to them. And based on that number, they either decide to give you a raise. That raise is going to be in the 5 to 10% range. It's just beyond me that they pay you so less and then they ask for your complete loyalty in return.
아까도 말씀드렸지만 한국은 매우 경쟁적인 사회이기 때문에 내가 만약에 일을 안 하게 되면 그 자리를 채워줄 사람이 넘치고 넘쳐서 워라밸까지 챙기면서 돈을 많이 벌기에는 직장인으로서는 쉽지가 않은 것 같습니다.
A lack of financial and future security because of insane housing prices combined with an epidemic of loneliness and hopelessness. People here seem to be giving up on life, giving up on marriage, giving up on having kids.
It's true that we pay 일하는 시간에 비해서 적게 받는 것 맞는 것 같아요. 그건
사회적 이유가 있을까요?
제 생각으로는 과거에 저희 부모님보다 더 이전 세대 한 70년대쯤부터 한국이 경제적으로 성장하기 시작했는데 그때 당시에는 적게 주고 일을 많이 시켜도 그냥 일을 했어요. 그 사람들이. 왜냐하면 가족들이 같이 살 수 있으니까 조금 주고 해도 그냥 일을 했는데 그런 문화가 약간 정착을 하다 보니까 회사 입장에서는 뭔가 이런 employees들을 회사의 워킹 시스템 중에 한 부품 정도로 생각하는. 그래서 어차피 너 아니어도 여기 들어올 사람은 있어 라는 생각이 있지 않나 싶어요.
Harsh reality number 4. Feeling trapped in a job, feeling meaninglessness, feeling unfulfilled. It eventually always happens.
When you are not chasing your dreams.
In most companies, overtime work is a given. In a lot of tech startups, the culture is like if you are not working overtime like the rest of the employees, it implies that you are not working hard enough. Now, this might be very different from big companies Samsung, LG, NCSoft because legally you are only allowed to work 52 hours in a week. I've heard that their computers shut down after you exceed that limit, but this rule is disregarded by so many small to mid-sized companies because they love to overwork you without paying you for that extra time. And sometimes, even when there's no work to do, you cannot go home because your seniors are there.
그냥 위계 질서가 많은 이제 위계 질서가 뚜렷한 그런 회사에서는 이제 상사가 퇴근을 하지 않으면 일을 다 끝나도 먼저 퇴근을 하는 게 어려운 엉덩이를 붙이고 있어야 하는 그런 문화가 있는 것 같고요.
Most people never stop working at 6 or 7 p.m. They go back home at 11 or 12 or past midnight.
탈퇴를 하게 되면 저 사람 그런 회사의 뭐 애착심이라든지 아니면 그 뭐랄까 일을 좀 하기 싫어하나? 그런 눈빛으로 좀 바라보는 것 같아요. 예.
This leaves absolutely no time for hobbies or anything else. There are so many other toxic cultures in Korean companies. Being forced to go out and drink, forced to sing at a karaoke, not getting a raise more than the inflation rate, or your superiors never being satisfied with your performance during the year-end review, not being able to discuss salary with other coworkers.
And that's how they get away with underpaying you.
Korean companies have a clause in their contract that you should not talk about salary with other coworkers. Passive-aggressive coworkers in the workplace. If you don't love the work itself and you don't find your coworkers fun to work with, feeling trapped in a job is gonna happen. And at that point, it feels like, why am I even doing this? Like, money is not motivation enough to keep on going. All of us are here on earth for such a short time. All of us have a purpose for being born. And I want to make this experience memorable and not work day after day in a job that I don't find fulfilling for years just for money, just for being able to survive.
Indicates that something is wrong with our society.
Side note, I'm still working every day
On the weekdays.
from 10 to 6 p.m. I like that my timing is fixed and I have no overtime work. I also really enjoy coding and problem solving in general. And I really like how supportive they are of me doing activities outside of work.
Because some companies in Korea have clauses in their contract that you cannot have a side job or a hobby.
Harsh reality number 5. Job hopping is really looked down upon in Korea.
But sans, it is looked down upon in all work cultures.
And I completely understand why. But here's how it manifests in Korea. Let's say you are fed up with your job, with your passive-aggressive coworkers, with the low salary and so much overtime work. If you complain to your friends or family about wanting to change your job, they're gonna highly discourage you from changing your job, saying, why are you leaving the stability of a job right now? They say that even if you hate that job, just stay there for 2 or 3 years. Most Korean companies don't even acknowledge you as a person with experience unless you have at least 2 or 3 years of experience working at one place. I don't think it makes sense to discourage someone from going for what they want. Our life purpose is not to work for a company. It's always going to be something more fulfilling than that, even if it's difficult to achieve. I'm kind of going off script right now because this has nothing to do with working in Korea, but just imagine where humanity would be if all of us were allowed and even encouraged to do what we were born to do. A musician never being forced into becoming a doctor. A mathematician not being obligated to take up a job in software engineering just because he has to provide for his family. A person with a love for organic chemistry not having to go into tech sales to make bank. Every job is a stepping stone to what you actually want in your ideal future. Please don't throw away your time and youth doing something that doesn't light you up. Let's make the world a better place and a happier place by us being better and happier first. And that starts with our careers.